Today, my special guest is Diane Conklin, a dear friend of mine with Complete Marketing Systems. And we are going to talk to Diane about her life, and she's going to share with us some amazing tips on how you as an entrepreneur can grow your business. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Shahar, how are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. You know, do you mind if we dive in right now?
So you want to know all the beans, huh? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm really, I grew up on a 75-acre farm in Ohio, and I'm just an old country girl. I've been an athlete most of my life, and I really got started in business. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology, so I'm putting that to good use, as you can tell with my marketing. But, I love that field, and I always did. But there was always this inkling for me to do something more. My big thing has always been I wanted to make a real difference in people's lives. And I could do that with the health and fitness industry, but there was always this inkling for me to do something else, to have a business of my own. And so very long story short, I got involved, actually got a letter from Robert Allen many years ago, and got involved with his protege program, and started to learn this thing called information marketing that I had no idea what that was. And then actually I worked for a year for free. Yes, she said for free, for no pay, for a very well-known information marketer who was in the real estate niche in Florida. And at the end of the year, literally I did everything from packed boxes to schlep to the post office. We used to really have products that we had held in our hands, that weren't just digitally administered. To, ran his events, to ran the office, to merchant account things. Everything that we do in an info business, I did. And really learned from him that year the business. And then went back to Atlanta where I was living. And he called a few months later and said, I'd like for you and my partner at the time to come run my business. So we did that for 5 years. And at the end of that 5-year period, really decided it was time for us to sort of branch out on our own. And had no idea. We left with no net. We had no products, no customers, no anything. I don't necessarily recommend this, by the way. And we started off on our own. And I'm very proud to say that in the first year we made 6 figures, and it's been, up and away from there.
So you've been in info marketing, I would say, since the very beginning, right? Do you see many changes from those years to today's info marketing?
So many things have gone online. Internet marketing, which is really just a media, not necessarily a business, but so much of the emphasis now is online on the internet. I think it's so much more today about relationships and really building the relationships with your clients and getting to know them. I think it's harder today than it's ever been to get that first sale, for example, from people. People are more skeptical. There's people out there that aren't necessarily doing the right thing and don't have people's best interest at heart, unfortunately, like any business. So I think from that perspective, it's different. The good news for us, though, is that the marketing strategy, the marketing technique, the same things that we would have done 10 years ago are relatively the same. Now, not 100%, because you have to do more. You have to integrate more. You have to incorporate online with offline. There's social media. So there's a lot of more things to do now, but the principles are the same. If you really integrate and use more than one thing at all times, you really take a lot of the risk from your business away, because if something doesn't work as well, you have this other piece of the pie that's constantly turning and going. So yeah, you can't just use one thing.
What do you think, in the sense of format, what are people buying right now? Because again, with Robert Allen, you were selling home study courses probably, right? And a lot of manuals. What are they buying today?
You might even see a few of them in those bookcases.
Oh boy.
It's mostly digital products, so it's very interesting. I'm still old school. I love having that physical product in my hand. But if you look at the numbers right now, it used to be that about 25% of the people would take the upsell to the physical product if you had a digital product. The numbers I'm seeing today are somewhere between 2 and 5%.
Wow.
So the good news for us is that cuts our costs, right? We can put them up digitally. We don't have to deliver anything. It increases our margins. It's more profit for us. But I think that's the big thing. It's digital, and the big thing that so many people like is video. You get to see both of us live. Here we are, right, in all of
Yeah.
our glamour and glory. People like that. Again, it's the relationship piece, right? It's you can see me, you can feel me, you can, you feel like you get to know me, you can look me in my eyes, kind of thing. So I would caution people, though, not to go strictly to video, but to give people that choice, because there are still people who, I don't particularly want to sit in front of my computer and watch a course. I would prefer it on audio. Some people still prefer to read. Now, I know that's a strange thought.
Actually, the video I love, but the fact is that I have very little time to sit down and watch videos on a constant basis. I do every now and then. There are some podcasts that I watch, but we have to understand also age brackets and what those age brackets are used to. And if you're selling to a specific one, let's say boomers and olders, you do have to consider how they like to consume information, right?
Yeah, knowing who your target is and who your market is and honing in on that gives you a huge advantage.
Could you give us some tips on the basic things that entrepreneurs have to focus on in order to see growth in your business? So, for example, you just started with knowing your customer, right?
Yeah, it's so big. It's such a big deal. And I'm not talking about, well, I market to women. I'm talking about I market to women between the ages of 30 and 45 who are married and have 2.3 children. I'm never sure where that 0.3 comes in, but who are in upper management or who have owned their own business for 2 years and are making approximately. Now, I know some of you are going, oh my gosh, how do I know this, right? Part of it is garbage in, garbage out, right? As much information as you can get from people. And part of it is you can have your list done what's called profiled, and it'll give you this information. It's pretty inexpensive to have done, and it will change who you think you're doing business with about 90% of the time. We think we know, when in fact, the cool thing about doing it too is that it will bring out biases, if you will, in your list. So maybe you have a lot of attorneys or doctors or people who own boats. That sounds strange, right? People who read Architectural Digest. You can find this out by having your list profiled. Then when you go look for your clients, you can say, I don't want men. I don't want women age 55 and up. I don't want women who have no children, right? And so it significantly narrows the people that you go talk to, but you're talking to exactly the right people because you're focused in on the person who wants to do business with you. So that's really a big deal. And then talking to them talking to them in their language. In other words, you want the thought to come to them, she's talking to me, or this is for me, kind of thing, when you speak to them. So if that particular niche or group speaks in a certain language, so like, you and I are info marketers. We have things that we say that people don't understand, right? Like autoresponders and sequences and people.
The secret lingo.
Right, it's lingo, but you have to then learn that lingo so you can talk and be one of them. And that's another great tip, by the way.
You are one of the few marketers we can really talk about direct mail. Right?
Yes, we can.
So since we told people not to use only Facebook and to read, can we tell them to send direct mail? Is this going to work, or is something from the past?
It's a great question. Direct mail still works. I think it will always work. I think there's always going to be a need for it. And it provides you with some real advantages. One is that because it's a better client, we know that they spend more money over the long term. We know that somebody who buys from direct mail will spend more initially with you, and that they tend to stay with you as a client longer. Now, this is one of those people always say, why is that? This is the one time in my life when I always say to people, it doesn't matter why. It just is. Direct mail is something that a lot of people will say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, it does work, or companies like American Express and AT&T and Toyota and Hewlett-Packard and Coca-Cola would not be using direct mail. So it does work. You just have to figure out how to make it work and be specific in your mailings and start off small, test, and then get bigger. And sometimes you can send wild and crazy, outrageous things relatively inexpensively and make those work. And the advantage that gives you is that it really helps you stand out in the marketplace and be a little different. and it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, it does. Do you when you create campaigns for your clients, do you always insert the direct mail into those, or how is it that you work with them?
Yeah, I always try to get them to integrate direct mail into whatever it is that they're doing. So it's, again, it's not just one thing, right? I would never say just do direct mail, but do direct mail, follow up with some emails, write about your direct mail programs on Facebook. So you'll get a kick out of this. I sent a piece for my event back in October in a tube, and it was a big, remember those while you were out, the
Uh-huh.
little forms that when you worked a job, right? And you came back, and so it was one of those, but it was 11 by 17 in a tube.
Well,
And it was amazing. First of all, the people who got it were blown away. And I started talking about, did you get your tube with the while you were out on Facebook? I had slew of people saying, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? I want to see this. Well, I knew none of them had gotten it because I only mailed it to 200 people in a 300-mile radius around Atlanta. But it created this buzz of, what are you talking about? What is this, right? So I actually took a picture of it and put it up so that people could see it. So, people don't get this stuff, and they very rarely do they get fun things like that in the mail. So when they do, you really can have some fun with it.
we don't get a lot of cool stuff in the mail anymore.
Yeah.
So, which makes a perfect, moment for you to stand out even more. Now, you mentioned a couple of times about have a strong back end and do follow up. I've noticed over my career that follow up is a strange word for people because it's amazing, even retail and service providers, how many of them don't have any type of follow up, right?
Yeah.
Give us your take on that.
Well, the money's in the follow-up, and it always will be, and it always has been. And so many people are leaving so much money on the table. So in information marketing, or think about, when was the last time, every buying decision that we make, there's a buying cycle, whether it's a new home, whether it's a new car, whatever it is, there's a buying cycle. So most people are going to buy a new home somewhere between every 7 and 10 years. Anybody ever had their realtor call them back and say, hey, if you're thinking about moving? Anybody ever have the guy who you bought your car from call you and say, how's it going? There's no follow-up. People don't understand. In our business, let's just say, for example, we did a teleseminar or a webinar, and we finish it. Well, now what? Well, there should, in fact, be a sequence that goes out to people. Maybe it's a phone call even, right? Maybe it's email. Maybe there's messages in a private group, or however that goes. But people have to be reminded. Now most people think, yeah, but Diane, we just spent an hour on the phone with them. We told them what the offer is. Aren't they just going to go and get it? Well, in the magical fairyland somewhere, yes. But think about it. We're all busy. We get distracted, right? So just as we're getting ready to go online, the phone rings. The kid comes in, an email pops up, the dog throws up on the floor, whatever it is, right? And we go, oh my gosh, we have to deal with this. But imagine what happens if at 10 o'clock that morning, suddenly in my email box, I get a message reminding me with the link. I go, oh my gosh, I got distracted last night. I meant to go do this. Well, even if it's a $300 or $400 sale, if you get 2 or 3 of those, it can really add up. So
you can increase the amount of sales by 50% just by doing proper follow-up.
Yeah.
And it still is, sometimes it looks like it's so painful to people. But today we can automate part of it, use traditional methods to do follow-up, including phone, right? Yep. And think about it. If you, in 1 year, you can increase your revenue in 50%, why not do it?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting when you mention the phone thing, because you'll be surprised if you add that and you're the one that's calling. People will be amazed. They're like, oh my gosh, you're calling me? It's not your assistant. This isn't Memorex. It's really you, because so few people get it anymore. They don't get phone calls. So that could be a really, really big thing. And I know somebody who closes between 25 and 50% of everybody she talks to.
Diane, talk to me now about the type of client you like working with. Define that person for us. Because, I know very well that you, like me, you like to qualify who you work with. Maybe you want to explain exactly what that is, right? Qualify the kind of clients, not like you have the doors open and everybody comes in, we want your money, right? So let's talk a little bit about the process of how you qualify the kind of client you like to work with.
Well, you know, for me, it's not so much about male or female as what I've come to learn is it's about the attitude. It's about where they are. So my favorite client, specific to information marketing, is somebody who either already owns their own business, whether it's info marketing or a brick and mortar kind of business, who's looking to add information marketing as a second income. So they've already had success in their life and in their business, or somebody who comes in with an attitude of they understand that they have to invest, and not only financially but mentally. Many times when people first starting out, especially in the information business, because we talk about it as being the best business in the world and having low overhead and being able to start quickly, and all of that is true, but you also have to have the mentality of some business acumen to make that happen, and to understand you have to build your list and all of these things. So my favorite client is somebody who either has come from corporate and they understand that, or already has their own business that they're successful in, who's looking to add info marketing. And the reason that's my favorite is because they tend to have success very quickly, because they already have some of the skills and attitudes and things that you know, make people successful.
I think mindset is a big thing here, right? I also don't work with beginners, and I thought that was a mistake on my part, that it was about the structure they had as a business. While that really is irrelevant, it's the mindset towards business that is very different. To understand, for example, that they do have to have a budget to market, right? And understand risks, understand investment. And unfortunately, sometimes when people start out, they do think, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to put this website up there, and tomorrow, can I have sales tomorrow? So the mindset plays a big role. One final tip to the entrepreneurs watching this?
You know, I would tell you this. I ask this question, and it oftentimes doesn't make me popular, but do you own a business or do you own a job? And for most of us, we got into business to own our own business, and what we have is we've owned a job because we don't have a plan. I'm not talking about a business plan. I'm talking about a marketing plan in front of us. We have a plan for a year, and we work in 90-day increments, which is what I always recommend, because you really can't be working on something much farther out than 90 days. Right. Get some leverage in your business. You know, even if it's a part-time person, 10 hours a month to start with gives you some leverage that allows you to move from doing all of it to being the business owner. And I think that's the big thing. The other thing I would tell you is think about why it is you're doing something in your business. Don't do it because Shahar said to or Diane said to, right? Do it because you've thought about, you know, what's the end result you're trying to figure out. Use some strategy with, you know, why are you doing the things that you're doing in the way that you're doing them. I know that was more than one tip, but it sort of all goes together, right?
Yeah, of course it does. And if people want to know more about you, Diane, where should they go?
The easiest thing is just to go to the main website, which is CompleteMarketingSystems.com. There's a free offer there for the 9 keys building blocks for your information business, and all of our services and things will be listed there. So CompleteMarketingSystems.com.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Diane, for your time. There was a lot of good information for people here. And, you know, thank you all for watching this. I'll see you next time.